Have you been considering selling your home and wondering what that process looks like? Well, I think that breaking it down step by step is the best way to understand the process and get the best results. Whether you're a seasoned seller or a first timer, I'd love to share my process with you. Step 1 of my 7-step seller process. Step 1 is hiring the right agent. When I meet with the seller for the first time in their home, my goal is to sit down with them and ask the best questions so I can figure out what they're trying to accomplish and how I can best help them. My goal is to figure out if we are a good fit. And the most important thing is to remember that it's a partnership together and we need to be able to work well together to accomplish the best results. Also, I'm able to take a tour of the property and see the best features of the home. I always want to be able to tell a story around the property in my marketing, and when I'm doing this tour with the homeowner, they can point out things to me that they love, things that they wish they could change, and it's really the best way for me to get a best sense of the property. Step 2 in my 7-step seller process. Step 2 is preparing the home to go to market. So after my initial meeting with the seller, I'm able to go back and devise a plan around marketing the property. This is a two-pronged approach, one of them being setting the price, but another really important factor is making sure the home is presentable. So when I'm touring the home, I'm able to take notes and figure out, is there some things that we need to declutter or depersonalize about the house? We also could consider doing some staging, whether that's light staging or needing to actually bring in sets of furniture, especially if it's a vacant house. That can really help showcase the home and help the buyer envision the space. Curb appeal is another important piece of this. We want to make sure that the landscaping is nice and neat, looks healthy. You might also need to power wash the house, clean the gutters, things like that. There's other things that we can consider, like painting the exterior or the interior. And if the house does need some minor repairs, we might want to look at replacing flooring and things like that. All of this is done on a case-by-case basis. It really just depends on the house and what we're trying to accomplish and what the seller's needs are. So the whole point of this is to make sure we're presenting that great first impression to a buyer. Step 3 in my 7-step seller process. Step 3 is getting the price right. This is really the most important thing. I don't have a crystal ball, and I wish I did, but we do have some really good tools at our disposal to try to get the price right. So I'm gonna look at all the activity in the neighborhood to see what has sold recently, and we're gonna look at those houses and compare it to this property. So we want to subtract or add value based on different amenities or condition of those houses compared to ours. It's really important to not overprice the property. What happens when a property is overpriced is it sits on the market and we ended up not getting showings and we don't get offers, and those days on market increase and the house gets stale. So when a house is stale on the market and just sitting there, buyers start to wonder what's wrong with the property, and that's what we do not want. So it's really important to look at all the data and try to make the best guess at what that market value is. My job is to price it well so we can get the right buyer and get the best offer on your home. Step 4 in my 7-step seller process. Step 4 is rolling out the red carpet for your listing. It's tempting to want to rush and get a home on the market, but it's really important to make sure that we take our time and have all the right pieces in place. I'm going to be scheduling photography and a video session for the property. I want to make sure I have all of the marketing collateral together so that we can go to market with everything that we need. My philosophy is accuracy is speed in this case. We also want to make sure that any decluttering or staging that we plan to do is all done prior to this, of course. I'm going to be doing a video tour of the home, and my goal with that is to really showcase the property so that when buyers view it online, they're getting the best sense of the home. This is also good because it's going to weed out buyers who the home might not be a good fit for, and it'll help the buyers that come into the property already be excited about it. Also, a buyer could live anywhere in the world, and this gives them the opportunity to view it online as well and have a true experience. All of this helps buyers get excited and want to see the home in person. They may have made an emotional connection to the home just from our marketing, and that's the best part. Step 5 in my 7-step seller process. Step 5 is your house is live, now what? We want to hit the ground running, and that's going to be utilizing all of our marketing assets and doing online and print advertising. Our goal is to get the most exposure for the property. With the Sotheby's International Realty brand, we get to capitalize on the power of that brand with our exclusive media partnerships and our international exposure. Your buyer could live anywhere in the world. We can also host realtor open houses and public open houses to get feedback from local agents as well as feedback from buyers. Our goal is to get as many buyers in the property as we can, so we're gonna start getting that feedback in. As that feedback comes, we wanna make sure we pay attention to that, because if we start hearing a lot of the same things, like there's too many stairs or it's too noisy, that helps us use that data and we can pivot and try a different strategy. Step 6 in my 7-step seller process. Step 6 is going under contract. So the first thing that happens when we go under contract is the buyer is going to have their due diligence period. And this is where they determine whether they want to proceed with the house. In Florida, most of our contracts are as is. So that means that there's no upfront expectation for the seller to make repairs. But that doesn't mean that the buyer may not ask for repairs. In these inspections, sometimes that reveals insurance-related issues like electrical fixes or plumbing leaks. Also, it's important to know that a lot of insurance companies will not insure a home where the roof is older than 10 years. So it's important to be mindful of these things when those issues might come back from an inspection. In my initial meeting with the seller, I am going through this stuff so that those expectations are there. Some of my sellers do choose to do what we call a pre-listing inspection so that we find out these issues ahead of time and they can try to tackle them to avoid any obstacles down the road. If a buyer is obtaining financing, that's going to be another contingency of the contract. And so they have to get their loan approval prior to closing. An aspect of this is the appraisal. Now, when we list the property, my goal originally was to set the price within market value so that we avoid an appraisal issue at the time of contract. So my job is to walk us through these different obstacles that might come up and help us find a solution and get to the closing table. Step 7 in my 7-step seller process. Step 7 is it's closing day. When the buyer has passed all their contingencies in the contract, this is when we hear those wonderful words, clear to close. Title company will prepare all the documents needed to sign, as well as balance all that documentation with the lender if there is a lender involved. Then we will schedule a time for you to sign all that paperwork at the title company. The buyer does the same thing, however, we don't generally sign together at the same table. This is the day that the keys get turned over to the new owner, so it's important to remember to have all of your personal belongings out of the home. Once all the parties have signed and the buyer or the lender, if they're involved, have wired their money to the title company, we will be fully closed and funded, and you will get your proceeds from the title company wired into your bank account. And that's when we can pop the champagne and celebrate on to your next adventure. All this info is why it's so important to work with a trusted real estate advisor. If you'd like to learn more about what it's like to work with me, you can visit my website at brittanyrenew.com and follow me on YouTube and my social channels at Brittany Renew Realtor.